Well, shalom and welcome back to Main Street. Today, a discussion with David Justman, our guest, about JINSA. Sounds like a secret code. What is JINSA?
Now, JINSA stands for the Jewish Institute for National Security Affairs.
Does sound like a secret code.
It's too secret, Phil, and that's what we're trying to change today.
Okay, let's go for it. What is the purpose of JINSA?
Well, Phil, JINSA is a Washington, D.C. based think tank, and JINSA's mission is fourfold. And the first aspect of JINSA's mission is to provide leadership on national security and foreign policy issues. Number two, JINSA wants to promote the strategic relationship between the United States and like-minded democracies, which includes but is not limited to Israel. Number three, JINSA strives to inform the U.S. public and influence policymakers about the strategic importance of the U.S.-Israel relationship. And finally, JINSA's mission is to provide support for a strong and robust and effective U.S. military to implement U.S. national security policy when called upon.
So let me get this right. It's a group of mostly Jews, right?
It is the Jewish Institute for National Security Affairs, okay. Correct.
That really focuses on not Israel and military strategy, but the United States, working with the U.S. military.
It does focus on Israel. JINSA does focus on Israel, but its primary mission is U.S. national security and national security policy. We are promoting a robust U.S. national security policy and the means to implement that policy without disassociating ourselves from the strategic importance of Israel as an ally.
Got it. Okay, so we got that all set, but I think that's pretty understandable. When did it start?
JINSA was formed in 1976, so it's probably one of the longest-lived, least-known organizations out there.
Well, what jump-started it? What in history would have caused JINSA to be born then?
In the aftermath of the Yom Kippur War in 1973, some serious people in Washington, D.C. thought that it was important that there be a Jewish organization that supported the military-to-military relationship between the United States and Israel and was supportive of the U.S. military. Jews had always been focused on the political support for Israel and domestically, generally, on more social welfare-oriented programs. This was purely focused on military issues.
Now, looking at the year and knowing the fact that Scoop Henry Jackson from Washington, the state of Washington, was actively involved in politics, he must have had something to do with this. JINSA, Scoop Jackson.
Yeah, Scoop Jackson, Henry Jackson, was one of our founding members, and in fact our annual dinner is named in his honor, the Scoop Jackson Dinner, which is held every year in Washington, D.C., generally in November.
One of my dear friends was Ilan Ramon, the astronaut who perished in space. And many don't know the fact that he was one of the, I think it's either 7 or 8 planes that attacked the Baghdad nuclear reactor.
He was the youngest.
He was the youngest, and the question was, because I used to think he was the youngest was the answer to this, but it's not. He was the last plane, meaning he was the most dangerous position.
Correct.
And what I learned from his fellow colleagues that were in that mission was that it wasn't that he was the youngest, it was that he was the only one not married.
Correct.
That's unusual. I don't know, do we find that in today's American military? I mean, switching over to Israel just because I often think of that, the fact that what other Air Force would have said, you're going to be in the most dangerous position because you don't have the responsibility of a family. It's pretty Jewish.
It is pretty Jewish, but I also believe that he volunteered for that position because of that. He said, I'm the only one without a family. But I've been very fortunate, Phil, through my relationship with JINSA, to have some intimate contacts with the U.S. military, all the way from command level down to the most basic enlistee. And I can tell you that the motivations, the patriotism, the professionalism excels at every level, and that you would find that same type of response in the U.S. military as you did in the Israeli military.
Our friends and enemies agree. For more than half a century, the United States has been the bulwark of freedom and democracy in a dangerous world. As the years roll by, the threats to America and her democratic allies continually change. For more than 2 decades, the Jewish Institute for National Security Affairs, JINSA, has worked tirelessly to help guide that process to secure an effective United States defense capability, to safeguard vital national interests, and to strengthen the role of Israel and other democracies in bolstering freedom worldwide.
More of David Justman and JINSA after this. What would you like to make your message on behalf of JINSA say? Give us your motto, your logo, your positioning, your branding of JINSA. And what is it that you need from our viewers? You need them to join, support.
Well,
you don't need them to salute.
You know, that wouldn't hurt. Not me.
Salute once in a while would be good.
JINSA's mission is to support, as I said, the U.S. military and the U.S. military defense capabilities and capabilities to implement U.S. National security policy, which includes the support of the State of Israel, because let's face it, Phil, we're fighting the same enemies want to destroy the United States as they do Israel. Just Israel's closer. So they're getting to Israel first. But it doesn't mean that the U.S. is off the hook. So we recognize that. The military-to-military relationship between Israel and the United States has always been strong and remains strong. All right. What do I want your viewers to do? I would like your viewers to look into JINSA as an organization. Which, can I give the website?
Sure.
Okay. It's www.jinsa.org. See our programs and our policies. And like any other 501c3 nonprofit, we run on the contributions of our membership. And in order to implement our programming, which, if you like, I can talk a little bit about our programming, we need contributions and support. Well,
a little bit on your programming.
Okay. This is the essence of JINSA, and I'm glad you asked. JINSA does 3 major programming efforts. The first one is a flag and general officers trip to Israel. Now, once a year, and this next trip is leaving in May. I've been very fortunate to go on the last 9 trips. We take somewhere between 8 and 12 U.S. admirals and generals, retired admirals and generals, to Israel. Many of these, almost none of these admirals and generals are Jewish, and most have never been to Israel before. And the purpose of this trip is to introduce U.S. senior military commanders to the realities of boots on the ground in Israel. And you know, you can't understand Israel's size unless you've been there. You have to stand on the ground and see how you stand on the West Bank, and you can see almost everything from Haifa to south of Tel Aviv, and understand that being in the Golan, look down at the kibbutz. Understand the strategic importance of the ground in Israel. Being briefed at the Kiryah by the senior IDF leadership in a very open fashion allows these military leaders, the U.S. military leaders, to form or reform or expand their opinions of and their understandings of the realities of Israel's difficulties and the strategic importance of Israel as a U.S. ally. So I'm not saying that these guys come back Zionists, but they come back better informed and, in many cases, strong advocates for the State of Israel and for continued U.S. support for the State of Israel.
I think we should close with the name of a song written by a Jewish immigrant, Israel Balin, Irving Berlin, who said and wrote the song, God Bless America. Thank you for
Amen to that. Thank you, Phil.
We'll be right back.